Hi, everybody. Well, here we are again, and we're going to chat today about storms. We've got quite a bit to tell you about storms. Candice and I thought it would be a good idea to share a lot about our experiences with storm claims, particularly over the last 2 years, and more particularly last year in Gauteng. We know that Cape Town are busy experiencing severe storms, um, and here in Gauteng, we're busy bracing for the next round of Gauteng storms. Candice, welcome. It's great to have you with me today. And we're just going to chat about it and share some of your experiences.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I think with the impending storms that are coming up, it's not only us that are bracing for it. I think the insurers are as well. I'm sure they're wondering what's going to happen.
No, great. One of the things, I mean, there's actually two things we want to share with folk today. I think, firstly, I just want to explain how we managed to get through it last year. And thank goodness for our systems. So I want to share a little bit about our systems, um, so that our clients, our managing agents, and potential clients, if any of you want to become an Addsure client, this is one of the reasons why. And then secondly, just give you a few pointers from more than mine experiences, but Candice, because Candice handled a lot of the problem areas, particularly last year. And I'm going to give you some pointers so that we can make sure that this year, you might be a little bit more prepared and look at a few things. Candice, I think let's start off by perhaps chatting about during the storms last year, um, and I'm thinking of those large buildings. So basically, what happened last year, we had about seven buildings. Would that be correct? When I say there's a
Yeah.
lot more, but seven large schemes. I'll put it seven schemes into the box. Um, Running between Sandton, Sunninghill, Midrand. It was kind of like a storm swept through that area and caused devastation to quite a large number of schemes. And then
hmm
between you and I, we were on sites, and our colleagues in our team handled the admin, but we had a
Yeah.
system. We're not going to talk about that now. But then during the course of this, dealing with each of these schemes, a lot of problems popped up, obviously, and things were brought to light. So this year we don't want the same problems. So let's go through them point by point. Let's go through the list. There's about 6 or 7 points, I think.
Yeah, look, I think, even before it comes to the problem areas, I think it's our approach is to try and manage the client's expectations and the client experience. But in order for us as the brokers to be able to do that, we do require the sort of focus from the managing agent side as well and the trustees. So it's quite important that a very thorough task group almost is formed when you've got more than one section damaged by storm. Like Mark, you were referring to some of the buildings last year. I mean, in one building, we had literally 99% of the sections were damaged. And it's a terrible occurrence, and nobody likes to have their ceiling collapse. Nobody likes to have water coming through their ceilings. But then also, we've got to manage that expectation and we've got to manage reality. And the reality is like what you said, literally on one day, seven buildings were affected, multiple sections. And the insurer is just as busy as we are and running around just as the contractors are. So there's also that reality aspect to deal with, which can become a problem that we need to manage too.
No, absolutely. And it's, we don't have a team of 30 people standing by for one storm a year. So, and nor do the insurance companies and the
Mm,
loss adjusters aren't standing around. So
yes.
essentially what happens, you know, everybody looks at me, poor little me, which is right. I mean, you've got that right. You pay
Yeah.
insurance premium, so you want to have the service when you need it. But so does everybody else at the same time when there's an event like that. It's different when you have a car accident and it's in the normal, like it's your turn to have a car accident or it's your turn to have a flood of your burst pipe or whatever. But when there's a storm, it's everybody at the same time, and that's the and of course in sectional title or community schemes, that's the nature of the beast because you've got one
Mm.
building and a whole lot of people together. So what happens generally, I notice, well, notice in a big way, is that yeah, everybody, I've got damage and I live here, I pay my premium, and tomorrow I want it fixed. And that's not going to happen. Um, yeah. So Candice, you agree with me? I mean, so I think out of those
Mm.
7 buildings, I think it was the 13th of November last year, 13th. Um, and
Yeah.
and the
14th of November. Yeah.
and a few years
Yeah.
before, I mean, I'm going back a few years. It was also in the middle of November when there was a big storm like
Yes.
that. So November is when it comes. And the bad thing about November is if I'm a contractor and I'm going on holiday on the 1st of December, I have got less interest in your roof than you would want to believe. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the other challenge. So the contractors don't really want the work. They don't want to take on a project when they're going on when they're thinking about their own holiday,
Mm.
and you want it fixed. But the problem is the insurance company have got to now deal with a few hundred people with the same problem on the same day.
Yeah.
You agree, Candice?
I do. So like just the basic areas to focus on is how do we deal with the run up to the storm? How do we deal with the storm happening? And then what are we going to do when once the storm's occurred? Because the storm is going to happen again and again and again, and we need to have some sort of set provision in place on how to actually deal with it. And what I found with majority of these storms is that a lot of the owners took the opportunity to report older damage, which perhaps they had never reported before. And they took the opportunity to say, well, now I've had storm damage. So that went into the bulk claim, if I can call it. And then that also causes its own problems because it almost makes the insurer want to scrutinize this building even closer. And now you're dealing with damages that really weren't supposed to be there. So it's a big issue.
Yeah, I notice what happens. I'm thinking about the few that I saw, and I'm not saying it's everybody. It's just that when you're dealing with 100 people in one complex at once, you're always going to have one or two chances. That's the nature
Yeah.
of people. But I think what we need to point out is that the insurance claim can only be about what's caused damage that time. You can point
Yes.
out and say, oh, by the way, that's old damage. But when when it becomes mixed with old damage and new damage, it delays the process. Now, Joe Blogs down the passage has given an honest, yeah, this is what's just happened, and we want to fix it. But the guy down the passage who's saying, that happened, and it didn't, and now it's going to be investigated, it holds up the process. Even if it gets put in, I'll try, and now that part of the claim gets rejected, it adds an admin burden because now that part's got to be rejected and considered, and it's got to go through a whole process before the person down the passage can get settled. It's a huge delay factor, um,
Mm.
which comes into play. So yeah,
Yeah, and then what I also found is that the the buildings haven't done maintenance. I know that maintenance sometimes is not always top priority, maybe because of the financial state of the building, but all of this then comes into play and affects the outcome of the damages. So, for example, if you've got wooden window frames and they're not maintained, now you add in a storm to the mix, and now the wooden window frames crack and break. They get added to the actual claim. And then a loss adjuster is appointed, and you can see that this damage would not have occurred with just one set of rainfall, but it's actually occurred over a period of time. So that also complicates things. And then to get the expectation across to the owner that this actually isn't part of this storm, it's because of multiple occurrences. So you have frustration that then occurs. So if a more proactive approach is taken to maintenance of, let's say, windows, but also roofs, get your roof maintenance done, get your gutters cleared out before storm season, because the overflow of blocked gutters causes the water to go into the roof tiles, which then causes ceiling damage, and so we go along.
Mm.
And then if you're not maintaining the roofs, and let's say like in this particular last set of storms, it had a lot of hail, and hail is sudden and unforeseen. So you'll find that the insurer would be willing to help you with the hail damaged roof tiles, but they're not going to help you with your waterproofing that's failed, or the copings that have now been damaged. So then they'll step back from that. And then the client's expectation is, well, the insurer is going to fix my roof. But that's not the case. And then the challenge that we had is trying to explain the difference between a sudden event and maintenance, and why is the insurer not maintaining your roofs? That's your responsibility. And then that caused a further complication, because the event in November sparked many other November storms, then December storms, January storms, right up until March we were having storms. So you don't maintain that roof. You've replaced your roof tiles that were cracked due to hail, but now you've got a heavy downpour. It's actually not the same event. It's a new claim, and now you haven't dealt with the roof. So it's a further complication. And then Joe Bloggs, who's sitting in their section, sees the deterioration on their ceiling, and it's just
Mm.
getting worse and worse and worse. But
Mm.
it's not actually associated to one event.
Mm.
That's one of the big complications.
No, absolutely. No, particularly the roofs. I mean, let's just look at that for a moment. Let's take a spot. Let's We could actually spend a whole hour speaking about roofs. And in fact, I'm soon going to be interviewing an expert, a building expert, on roofs and maintenance. And yeah, Marisia Robas, that's her book I was actually had out. She's actually going to do a list for us on, because they do Gauteng inspections, home inspections. And she's a roof expert. And we're going to get a checklist. So that'll be available here soon. But very much so, Candice. I think to put it in a nutshell, if there's damage to the roof and it's wear and tear related, even if it's the first time, it's the first rains. I mean, we've just had a nice dry season now in Gauteng, and now the first rains come along and it comes through. If that ceiling is damaged, it's not damaged because of the storm. It's damaged because the roof is not being maintained or wasn't maintained. And actually, somebody needs to get on that roof round about now, August, September, October, to go and look. Even test it with a hose pipe or whatever you do when you test a roof. Oh, look, the concrete around the coping is cracking. Oh dear, the gutters are like, ooh, yeah, are full of leaves, because that's what they are at this time of the year. You haven't cleared them because they fell off in autumn, and yeah, ours get full. My gutter is blocked at the moment, so I know that, and yeah, so it's definitely needs to be attended to. The experts actually tell me, I'm talking about the engineers, the Mauritius and the Curishers and the others, that you should be inspecting your roof every year, definitely. And you need somebody to go up. I know I'm going to give a shout out to Clive Reynolds, managing agent, who always recommends very strongly to his body's corporate. And he's actually got a contractor that he every year he goes around to his buildings and checks the roofs. That's big tick. That's what needs to happen. Shout out to trustees in my own complex where I stay, because the other day I was so impressed. And windows, you said just now, it's very important. The putty was falling out some of the windows in our complex. And so they've sent out now recently, within the last month, somebody came around, they assessed all of the windows, they've come around, and now there's putty. In fact, I'm making a little video, I'll put it up here. So, and they've come and they've repaired our roofs. And it's quite nice, because in our body corporate now, if the hail comes and smashes our windows, the loss adjuster can't say, no, these needed maintenance. You can
Mm.
say, here, we did the maintenance, here's
Yeah,
proof. And that's
exactly.
key. That's key, is to have, you've done the maintenance and there's the proof.
There's the proof. We've
Mm,
been proactive, and now you can actually say this
mm,
was storm damage because we've done the following mitigation
mm.
steps.
What about some of the
Definitely.
other things, Candice?
Well, other sort of aspects that I came across because I visited multiple units or sections with the loss adjuster. For example, a lot of people experience ceiling damage where the actual ceiling started to bow, and there's no water damage per se, but possibly through the storms, a bit of wind, and it creates a bit of a tunnel between the roof and the ceiling cavity. But then it shouldn't have actually moved, but it did, possibly due to the incorrect installation, maybe years back using different incorrect nails, or maybe the bishop strips were placed too far apart, and now it's starting to cause it to pull apart. So then that results in claims that get turned down because it's not actually storm related, it's ongoing. It's just items that keep on happening. And then in a lot of the buildings, what I found was a lot of almost like more decorative items which are fixed to the building, like pergolas. They were hit by the hail, but would they have been as damaged if they were actually treated every year? Um, Probably not. We had issues of carports that were damaged. Questions came about, would the carports have sustained that amount of damage if they were regularly checked? If if we had looked to see if there were any issues by the joints of the carports. So those are a lot of the issues that cropped up. But for me, what I did find is that overall the maintenance, if it was kept up to date and top notch, you probably would have found that there would have been less internal damages. I think with my experience with 4 different insurers on these claims, I think a lot of the clients were very lucky in that there actually wasn't anything to say that was rejected unfairly. It was very founded, and you'll see that on all of those cases, the benefit of the doubt was given to the client, to be honest with you.
Mm.
Um, so I think overall, the way that the claims were dealt with from the start to the finish contributed to the success of most of those claims. And that, like you said earlier, speaks to the technology that was used and the timeousness that we reported all of the issues. And I think my sort of experience was very interesting to see how different loss adjusters dealt with claims, how different insurers dealt with claims, and how our consistent approach to all of those gave nice green ticks. We were commended a lot by the loss adjusters that I dealt with.
No, Candice, that's your doing, your organization. So really well done. Um, one of the things that you mentioned there, you mentioned carports. Now,
Mm,
what I remember what we did, one of the things we did, which did help a lot, bearing in mind that one of the complexes is 500 units, another one is 400 units, another 300. So these were big complexes. That was when I talk about the seven. Um, and when a carports come down, it's not just one car that gets tickled. It collapses on a few cars. And and in a couple of the complexes, we had this where the carports were severely damaged and there was collapse. And then the question comes up, well, the body corporate's carport fell on my car. Therefore, the body corporate's insurance must pay for my car. Now, it doesn't work like that.
mm,
Okay, so what did, we put a little video out and we explained a few things, and so we should touch on it today. So just to put it out there, if your car is damaged by a carport collapsing on the car, um, then it's a vehicle insurance claim because you've had impact damage to your car as a result of a storm. Okay, so it's really very storm damage to your car,
mm.
essentially. So
Yeah.
you should go and claim from your car. If you're not insured or you're trying to save your no claim bonus or whatever the case might be, it's not going to help. The the body corporate was not negligent. Uh,
Yeah.
the storm caused the carport severely to come down. The only time that you would have a case, and then you would probably still need to go via your own insurer initially, unless you want to have a real legal case, is if you can find that the body corporate was negligent or the client was negligent in some way, the property owner, and they were failing to maintain in a real bad way, and you can prove it. You've got to be able to prove it. Then you would have an argument, okay, of liability, but it wouldn't be a material damages claim, it'd
Mm.
be a liability claim. But no, it's not. The body corporate insures their building, not the car. So I think that we must just be very clear on that. Um,
Yeah.
and there was
I,
another
I think it's
point.
important for the owners to understand what it is that the body corporate actually insures, because in one of those claims there was a resident who had parked their vehicle in a visitor's bay. It's a non-covered bay. The hail occurred, the vehicle was hail damaged, and they wanted to hold the body corporate insurance responsible for fixing their car because there wasn't a carport provided. So that's just an example of the misunderstanding that people actually have when they move into a community scheme. What are you responsible for, and what is the community scheme responsible for? And that makes me think of the a lot of the claim links that came through actually mentioned damages to bed linen, to beds, to couches, to TVs. And then it took time to go back to that person to say, this is not part of this claim. You need to deal with your householder's insurance. So a basic understanding of who deals with what, I also noticed was one of the big things. That, to me, what I would think, I don't understand why someone is asking this. It's very valid questions because people don't really understand. It's not
No,
something that
it's yeah,
everybody
it's
knows.
and I always say I don't really mind that because that's what gives us a job as advisors. So
Yes.
otherwise, people could just work directly with the insurance company. So in a way, that's helpful to us if people need advice. But on that score, again, you on our website and on our various resources, we've actually got booklets which actually set out what is covered and what's not covered. We have a video here, another video here on what are you covered against. Very simply put, of what you are covered for and what you're not covered for. So, you can share those with your
Mm.
clients, with your owners, which we also do. So, yeah, but a good point. Very, very, very good point. Candice, any other items that you think we should chat about
Um,
that came out
what
that
I
came out?
what I would also encourage is that people onto the managing agent isn't afraid to give updates to the client. And that this for us, I think, with this last storm, especially with the volume that we were dealing with, was, let's say, out of the norm. And our job is to make sure that the communication is getting out to the owners. It's very difficult because we don't know who the owners are. So we were sending updates to the managing agent, but sometimes it wasn't filtering through to the client that was affected. So that I found was a challenge where in some cases it ended up that I ended up communicating directly to the owners, which isn't ideal. But in these cases, we had to do that so that the client had a good experience with this whole claims process. So that was one of the things is communication is so important. And I think communication in any aspect, but in this particular bulk claim scenario and all of these complexes that were affected, the communication is key. So I think we did our part. And maybe we need to touch on what our technology is that actually can help the managing agent to get this to convey it through to their end user, their client, the owners.
No, Candice, thanks for asking that because it's something that I did want to share, as I mentioned earlier on. Um, so what we've done is we've developed a system which is called the Aton system. So for a start, we've got years ago, in fact, 10 years ago, the program was implemented in our office, and it's an ongoing in progress as technology improves. So our programming. every month we are actually improving our systems. And what and not only our central system, which is the Addison system, which managing agents can log on to and track the claims, but we've also used some other software that's available to everybody, actually, if you're paying for it. And what we do is we actually set up reporting forms where we have a link and a button, and then as soon as the storm, I'll run through a scenario what we did. So when the storm occurred, we would get a phone call that evening. Mark, and I know you did as well, Candice. We on our cell phones we get a call. Look, it might have been 5 o'clock at night. I think the one. There's been a hell of a storm here. We've got this place is in a mess. Oh, really? Okay. Tell you what. So then I quickly, just because our system is there, so we just framed it for that particular scheme and basically set up a form online and it's just a link. So we then send a link out by WhatsApp and by email to the managing agent. So the managing agent can put it out to all owners that actually report their damages. So the owner gets a link and they press on the link on the email or on their phone, and they can actually just say, my name, my unit number. They don't have to give the name of the body corporate or anything because that's all in the system. And they just say, what's wrong? Okay, I've got this amount of damage. My ceiling collapsed and, there's water coming in through the bathroom window or whatever the case might be. Put it down there. Their name, and we ask for the contact person and any other comments that they might have, and just give us a story. Now, that little comments thing is even important because, I'm overseas at the moment, but my mother can be contacted on this number to come. Worked like a charm. And then this gets fed in, and already that night, I mean, the rain is still raining, and we're already getting the forms coming in about the damages. By the next morning, we've probably had 20 or 30 from that scheme, and it's all automatically going into a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet is then it's done, it's automatic. And then that spreadsheet is then submitted with the claim advice to the insurance company the very next morning. 8 o'clock the next morning, it's on that insurance company's desk or computer. And that insurance company, usually CIA or CIB or Santam or Rodell, and all the companies that were affected by the last claim. And there we have the loss adjuster appointed immediately. Now, bear in mind that there's probably, I don't know how many loss adjusters, but it's not hundreds. and these loss adjusters are going to get appointed for many buildings the next day. And ours are in at 8 o'clock. There's our list. That's what's wrong. And believe it or not, our loss adjusters get appointed straight away. And, within the next day, and sometimes, I think the 1 or 2 cases, even that same day, we had a loss adjuster on site and things started moving. Candice,
I think
have you got anything to add to that?
there was a benefit to doing that, and I'm still making use of it now because there's 1 or 2 claims that are still going. They were very large scale claims. The fact that an owner could upload a photograph, 2 photographs, 3 photographs, whatever. So we already had photographic proof. The fact that it became a PDF document, me as a recipient, the owner as a recipient, the managing agent, we already had something documented about what had occurred. And now I still use it as a reference. We'll still get a question, for example, I've got damages. I can go back and see, what was it that you reported in November? Is this new damage? Is this old damage? What are we looking at? I've already got photos. The loss adjuster in these cases already had the documentation that they needed. The insurer already knew the extent of the damages by the next day, so that it warranted our request to have a loss adjuster appointed with haste. Whereas if we take complex A, B, or C down the road where they were paper-based or maybe not yet reported, or they're still trying to collate who's got damages, the managing agent sitting furiously typing up a spreadsheet. We're streaks ahead. We've already got our spreadsheet in at the insurer, and we're able to update it. As these claims were coming in, we literally just updated it.
Mm,
The feedback that I got from the loss adjusters, one is that it was so well organized. B, they didn't have to do too much work. They already had their schedule. When they went to sites, they've got a schedule that's got the reporting person's details, the tenant's details, so who the occupant is, contact number, and any comments.
mm,
It made a huge difference. And then that spreadsheet, for example, when I helped managing agents with recons or trying to figure out what's going on, that spreadsheet was the basis. It had everything in it. And also, some of the contractors used that spreadsheet to input their information. Who were they having appointments with? What's been completed? So when we had updates at this one building, for example, that contractor took our spreadsheet, he color coded it to what's been done, what's held over to January, what's this, what's that. So it actually just formed,
mm.
I don't know, it's what the experience for all parties was very good.
No, absolutely. I can't. It's difficult to explain, so I'm going to try and demonstrate some of these. So here on the screen, I'm just going to put up like here's what you would see on your phone, for example. There's a few steps, one or two or three steps,
Yeah.
and then you submit. And one of the steps is, as you said, you can upload a photograph. So you can imagine all of this, all of these things are happening all at the same time, even on the night of the storm. And by the next morning, we've got the spreadsheet, and it can carry on. People for the next 3 days, I think stuff was still coming in, but
Yes.
at least the bulk of people's big and urgent problems are with us straight away with photographs. Now, the manual way, just to compare it, would be, as you said, but I'm just going to deepen the description, is that the next day, if by some miracle, which we've almost do perform sometimes, you bring a loss adjuster on site by 10 o'clock the next morning, he comes along with a clipboard and a piece of paper and a pencil, and now he starts. And it's a matter of, well, which door do I knock on first? And he starts getting the information that way. And that takes 2 days. Whereas our method, that information is already not only on his clipboard, but it's in his computer already, all in order. I think
Yeah.
that's the difference with photographs. So I think that's just that sort of maybe puts it in comparison. So you're already 2 days ahead on our system, and then yeah, our competitors are doing that. They're going around with their clipboards. Ours is
Yeah.
done. And you know, I'm going to put up on the screen here now. This is what the form more or less looks like: 2 pages, and then this that, as Candice as you described, when they submit that claim, that's they get that PDF back themselves, and the insurance company gets it if we've loaded it that way. But certainly, I get it, you get it,
Mm.
our team in Cape Town and our head office get it, and whoever else needs to get it. And then if we know who the loss adjuster is, we'll load them as well. That's what we've done. As soon as the loss adjuster is appointed and we've got their email address, they go into the system, and any further submissions, the loss adjuster is getting copied in at the same time. So no, it's quite amazing what one can do. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
take all of the credit for that. I'm going to say that it's technology that allows it. And I'd rather say that, you know, if you're not keeping up as a broker or as company or a service provider with technology, you certainly are not doing
Mm.
a client any favors, because using technology just takes things to a different level, I think.
And then, Mark, the other aspect when with these particular storm claims, the fact that most of the time the owners are in the dark. But now in this scenario, they got back a PDF. And if they looked at their PDF, they had steps. They could see, well, where am I in this whole bulk claim procedure? So when they asked for feedback, I could say to them, we're at step 3 right now. We've collated all the damages. The report is getting done by the loss adjuster, and that's going to be submitted to the insurer. So then we'll move over onto step 5, and we'll move over onto step 6. And it gave almost like a light at the end of the tunnel. So the owners then knew, okay, this is being handled. I know where I am. I know what I can anticipate. And it actually just it kept everybody up to speed.
No, absolutely. And and being all electronic, what I quite liked was the spreadsheet. Now it's got a column with everybody's email address in. So you could, and that's what we did. um,
Yes.
we prefer to go, as you said, via the managing agent because we think that the communication should be that way. But we know that they're busy, and they're probably busy with another 20 building storms with brokers that are not doing it properly. But what we were able to do was to actually just take all of those email addresses and send a little update. Hi, everybody, just to report, we received 79 claims. 50 came in on the first day, and we received another 29 in the last day or two. And we see that most of them are ceiling damages in one way or another, many severe. And we're going to the loss adjuster, Joe Bloggs, here's his phone number, and he's going to now contact you to make an appointment. If he hasn't made an appointment, you can contact him. Here's his number. And we were able to communicate that, which would have been absolutely impossible before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Candice, I think we could go on and on all day and all night, probably, with what we can do and what we've done at some of our war stories. But yeah, there's a lot more. What I am going to say, I'm going to let you, you want to have anything further to add to this?
I just think in anticipation that there are going to be storms, maybe more severe than in the last year or the last 2 years,
Mm.
is that take a step back and almost evaluate what is your action plan. If every building can have some sort of action plan leading up to the storm, have we checked our gutters? Have we done our roof maintenance? Have we sealed our windows? Are we prepared? Did we look at our carports? Have we inspected it? So if you've got that checklist and you are assured that you've done everything, you can minimize the damages and you can actually show proof to the insurer, which stands you in good light, and be open to having really clear set lines of communication that when that storm happens, everybody can stay abreast of what the latest is. And I think using technology is going to help us. It helps the managing agent, it helps the owner, and to make sure that you've got those steps in place that just makes a very unpleasant experience a little bit more palatable to handle. But yeah, it's just, it's communication and understanding who's got what responsibilities and roles.
No, absolutely. So what I'm going to do is, thanks for that. I'm going to put it here on the screen. You can see the um, the link. So link to this, it's Aton X, so our Aton system again, atonx.info / there it is, okay, about storms. And putting it up on the screen now, there it is. And then you go to that little page, and there, although it might not be there straight away, but certainly in due course, there will be some resources, some lists, some things that you can do, cleaning your gutters and all of those 12 things that you can do, cleaning the putty on your windows, checking your roofs for that coping, and all of those things. I'm going to ask the experts to give us a list of things to do. We're not technical. Let the
Yeah.
experts that deal with that give us the list, and you can download it and go and do it. Prevention is obviously better than cure. Yeah, there we go. Candice, thanks on that note. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call it a wrap. Leaving the link up there on the screen for everybody. Do have a look. There's a few other videos, clips on the YouTube channel that could be helpful in line with this, which is one on ceilings. That's one. There's another, which we haven't really touched on today, but because we have another video completely explaining it, is if your section is unoccupied. That was a problem that came from the storms, but go and see the unoccupied section video clip, and then you'll see all about it. We're not going to deal with that twice. So go there and have a peek. In fact, I'm going to put it up here so that you can go through after this video. You can go and watch it. And don't forget, please like this video. Please, by all means, share it with everybody. And of course, subscribe. Ring that bell. Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody.